Good evening. I'm wondering, we've talked about choices. We've talked about the importance of good choices, and we've talked about exercise and the importance of exercise and also nutrition. And I hope and pray you are beginning to be more thoughtful in your choices and make right choices. Tonight we're going to be talking about celebrating liquids. And you will soon realize how important it is to get enough water every single day. Many liquids don't count when it comes to ingesting adequate liquids, and water is the very best. By weight, a newborn infant, by weight is 75% water. Adults are about 70% water. And in fact, a man weighing 198 pounds has about 138 pounds of water in his body. Almost every cell and tissue of the body contains not only water, but is continually bathed in fluid and requires water to perform its functions. All of our bodily functions, all of the systems, you think of our neurological, our musculature, our endocrine system, every one of our bodily functions needs adequate water to function optimally. Water is the liquid of life. It's a medium in which metabolism takes place. It's the transport system within the body. It's the lubricant for movement. And in fact, when you reach your arm up, when you sit down, you're moving your joints and your muscles. You need adequate water to do that freely. It is the facilitator of digestion. It's the prime transporter of waste by way of the kidneys. It's a temperature regulator. Do you know that if you aren't taking in adequate water, your body will accommodate and it will sweat less and excrete less urine? And we'll talk about that in a minute. It's a major part of our circulating blood. And there is a risk that goes along with dehydration when it comes to our blood, and I'll explain that in a minute. About 2/3 of the water we get that our body needs comes from what we drink, and that's why it's so important to get adequate water. About 1/3 is from our food, and fruits and vegetables have the highest content of water, as you can imagine when you think of watermelon, cucumbers, celery, peppers, and citrus. They're loaded with liquid. And a very small portion of what we get, water within our bodies, comes from the liquid that's synthesized through the process of having our food metabolized. Ideally, the body maintains a balance between the amount of water we take in and the amount of liquid that we lose every day. But this depends not only on the climate, how hot it is, etc., but also on your activity level. So, of course, if you're doing a lot of exercises, you need to be drinking a lot more water. So what if water intake is inadequate? When we don't provide our bodies with enough water, they attempt to avoid dehydration, like I said, by decreasing sweat and urine output. If this fails to be adequate and you're still not drinking water, and insufficient dehydration continues, or fluid intake, dehydration will occur if you don't get enough fluid intake. And what happens if you become dehydrated, your temperature, your body temperature may go up. Whoops. My nickname years ago was Grace, and you can see why. So when we don't have enough water, our body temperature goes higher, and we have inefficient clearing of the waste products. The blood thickens, and blood flow becomes impaired, increasing the risk of intravascular clotting. And those of you in the medical field know how serious this is. This may manifest itself as a stroke or a heart attack. We need to keep our blood flowing easily and not to become thickened. So that's a good reason to keep your water intake what it should be. Insufficient water intake also results in constipation. Exercise and fiber intake play a role as well. Dehydration may cause a person to become dizzy or even have a headache. In older people, we often see that dehydration can lead to confusion. It's more often seen in older people, but we need to make note of that. During prolonged, arduous exercise, serious dehydration may occur. So careful attention needs to be made that we get plenty of water. It also increases dehydration, increases the risk of developing kidney and gallstones. I don't know if any of you have had kidney stones, but I hear it's really excruciatingly painful. To help us stay hydrated during prolonged physical activity, it's good to drink a lot beforehand, but then as you're doing whatever physical activity you are doing, keep that water close by and don't let yourself get too dehydrated. That can lead to fainting and other things. Consume sufficient amount of water so that your urine is a pale yellow. However, if you are taking vitamins or certain medication, it can make your urine a dark color. But the rule of thumb, if you're not out skiing or hiking or doing a rigorous activity, is to get at least, if you're very sedentary, you might get by with 6 to 8 glasses. But I would say, I know at least a liter or more, unless you have a heart problem. Sometimes your physician will say, don't drink too much fluid. And what is the, I can't remember what the other one is. Anyway, so water is, like I said, next to air, the most vital element to sustain human life. It is that important. It is actually a healing agent in and outside of our body. And I know you may know this, but when you do hydrotherapy with contrast heat and cold, it actually stimulates circulation, and it produces more white blood cells, which are like your policemen to keep your body healthy. So I know a lot of people who started doing this. They would take hot and cold showers. And it's maybe hard at first, but if you stand under really hot water for about 3 minutes and then turn on the really cold water, and you're allowed to scream at first, and leave that on for 30 to 60 seconds, if you do that 3 times, by the time you finish, it feels so good. And you've created all those white blood cells that help fight infection. Another thing is if you have an acute sprain or strain or bruise, don't put heat on it. For the first 24 hours, put a cold pack on it to decrease the inflammation. It's very, very helpful. There are, and you can use hot packs or heat packs if you have muscle strains or sprains after the acute phase. It decreases the pain. It's a wonderful, cheap, and home remedy you can do yourself. But don't use heat if you don't have good sensation in your skin, because you can damage your skin if you can't feel it well. So I know some people with diabetes, they don't have as good sensation in their skin. So please be cautious about that. Stress actually increases the output of cortisol, which is a stress hormone. And when your cortisol goes up, you become dehydrated. So it becomes a vicious cycle. Stress creates dehydration, and dehydration creates stress. So keep that in mind if you're feeling anxious, if you're nervous about something and you feel very stressful. You may notice your mouth gets drier. Make sure you're getting plenty of liquid. And I might add, too, that hydrotherapy, the hot and cold shower, has a calming effect on you. So it reduces stress, and it prepares you for sleep. It's a wonderful, wonderful choice to make if you have enough hot water to feel comfortable under the cold for a few seconds, 30 to 60. Anyway, remember how important water is each day. You will think better if you want increased energy and increased memory. Remember, get adequate water if you want decreased depression, decreased fatigue, decreased confusion. Please get at least, I would say, 8 glasses of water a day, unless you have something that indicates you shouldn't have that much. So it is the water of life. So make those choices, and I may ask you tomorrow.